So today we'd like to tell you all about the generation effect and how it works. First of all, we're going to present you with two different word pairs. The target word for you to remember is a synonym for the first word, which you'll see on your left. So here, your target word is counter, which is a synonym for bench. Can you think of a synonym for sea, which begins with the letter O? If you can think of a word other than ocean, props to you. This task was used in Slomecker and Graf's landmark study establishing the generation effect. The generation effect is the phenomena where things that are self-generated are remembered better than things that are merely presented to the learner. For example, rereading the answer to a question is less effective at improving long-term retention of the answer than independently generating the answer to that question yourself. So from the words presented earlier, which of these appeared? And which of these was presented earlier? Statistically, according to results of Slomecker and Graf, the word ocean should have been remembered better than the word counter because you simply read the word counter but were required to generate the word ocean. This is the results for Slomecker and Graf's study discussed earlier. The highlighted bars represent the results for the same task you just completed. The black bar represents the retention through the generation effect versus simply rereading the words. The generation effect refers to the robust finding that information is better remembered if it is generated rather than simply read. The beauty of the generation effect is that it can be utilised in several ways. For example, if a child is learning to spell, you can present the word orangutan, then ask them to fill in the blank, changing the sequence of missing letters each time. To remember singular words, you can use a similar format as the example we used here. To remember groups of words, generating mnemonics, such as never eat soggy Weet-Bix, to remember north, south, east, west, is a more effective learning strategy. Another use of the generation effect is in academic study by generating questions and answers around the material you're trying to learn. That is, when studying for an exam, instead of rereading your notes over and over, you generate a series of questions around your notes. You then aim to answer them without looking back at your notes, repeating this until you are able to answer all questions correctly. Importantly, the generation effect is remarkably similar to another effect known as the testing effect, where more information is retained when one studies through repeated testing than simply rereading. This was further demonstrated by Roediger and Karpik's study that involved memorizing a scientific passage. They demonstrated that participants who utilized repeated testing had better long-term retention of the passage content after 1 week than participants who engaged in repeated study of the passage, even though participants' short-term retention of the information was benefited more by repeated study than repeated testing. However, the main goal of learning is to retain information over the long term, so repeated testing, where you are required to self-generate the information, is more effective for learning. Hence, to use the generation effect to your advantage, you should try to frame information as a question and generate the answer yourself rather than just rereading. So how will you use the generation effect to your advantage?
Talking about my generation, just because we get around. Talking about my generation.